So because our prices are low, our setup is slightly different to facilitate the low costs. The biggest difference is we treat in what's called a community setting or a group setting, and that's a large room, probably about the size of this room, 20 feet by 40, 50 feet long, and we have recliners all over. People just kind of come in, you find a recliner you like, you sit back, you relax. There's no need to disrobe because we use only distal points. And what that translates to is we needle from the elbow down, from the knees down, and then on the head. So most folks can take off their shoes, roll up their sleeves, and they're good. Every acupuncture meridian starts and ends on the hands and feet. So if you have a problem in your back, in your head, that meridian has originated in either your fingers or toes. So you can really affect any part of the body through the hands or feet. So the other thing about group treatment is it has these sort of intangible benefits besides just the acupuncture. It's very relaxing to walk into a room where there's 6 to 12 people that are just hanging out. They're just there to relax, they're there to get healthy. It has a really calming, it's almost de-stressing in itself just to be in that setting. The other great thing is the way it's set up, since no one's undressing, you're not doing a lot of exams. You can bring your brother or sister in. You can bring your partner in. You can bring your whole family. And we do have people that come in as a whole family. You all sit around these big, comfy recliners, get acupuncture, have a nice relaxing time together. And that's really what it's all about. That's why we call it community acupuncture. We really want to treat whole communities of people, not just individuals in a little treatment area. And the best way for us to be able to do that is to keep the costs low, and that's why we do the things that we do. And I think it's a really great thing. I mean, obviously, I've been doing it for a long time. It's just a great alternative for people that can't afford the going rates, that don't have insurance that cover it. It's just a great way to get exposed to acupuncture and get treatment that people need. Okay. And any questions? Yeah.
So what would be the difference between the acupunctures you said from the elbow down as opposed to other parts of the body?
Other parts, well, there are certain styles, so there are many, many different styles, very similar to martial arts in that way, whose style is the best. There are actually very few points kind of on the upper arm and the upper leg. There really aren't a lot of classical acupuncture points there. There are some important points on the chest and the back, but we find you don't really need to use them. There's a few cases where they're really important to use. Really bad ulcerative colitis, really bad stomach pains, things like that. Sometimes we will actually have people kind of roll up their belly and do a few of those. And every once in a while, I found that if someone has really bad arthritis in their back, to the point where there's bone growth and what we call bone spurs pinching into the nerves, sometimes it is really helpful to needle into that. But it's really just sort of a difference of style, Hopefully that clears that up.
I had a question.
Yeah.
I had some acupuncture and it helped with my asthma, but I wasn't really sure why. But I've always kind of wondered, how did it do
Well,
that?
there are a bunch of theories, no one really knows, but sort of the classic answer is that the energy flows from the fingertips and the toe tips in towards the internal organs. So each organ has a meridian that it's nourished by. So in this case, the lung meridian runs from the tip of your thumb all the way into here, and it goes what we call deep into the chest and into the lungs themselves. So what you're doing is, typically for an asthmatic, you'll needle points along that lung meridian. You're stimulating that energy to flow better and to open up, and eventually it'll get into the lungs. You'll get more nourishment. It's very much like blood circulation. If there's a blockage, constriction, right, there's no blood, there's no nourishment getting there, there's no toxins being taken away. If you open up that flow, it allows your body to heal itself, is really what acupuncture is doing. It's sort of facilitating your own healing mechanism. So you increase that circulation, the lungs get more blood, they get more nutrients, the toxins get taken away more efficiently, and it starts to heal over. That's the other reason over time usually is better. You know, an acute asthmatic attack, you can stop it with needles. But if you really want to see, you know, results where someone has to get off, let's say they're puffing their albuterol inhaler 4 times a day, that's just going to take time for the lungs to get the nourishment over time that they need to grow strong, so they're no longer, you know, tightening up, or, you know, there's no longer that shallow kind of breathing. Yeah.
I've heard that the community model of acupuncture is really growing even nationwide. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I would say, gosh, probably 2 or 3 years ago, in order to spread this model, because Working Class Acupuncture is one of the very first community clinics in the country, and we're certainly still the biggest. We see about 500 patients a week, which is a ton. It's bigger than most schools by a long margin, actually. What we had were patients that would say, hey, my aunt lives in, you know, Wisconsin. Do you know a place like this? Because she can't afford, you know, to go to a doctor that does acupuncture or an expensive private acupuncturist. We also had a lot of acupuncturists asking us, you know, hey, what are you guys doing? You know, it's kind of an odd thing. So we got kind of tired of answering the same questions every time. So we set up a nonprofit called the Community Acupuncture Network. And it's basically serves 2 purposes. The first purpose is for patients to locate another clinic. And you can go on the Community Acupuncture Network, I think it's .org or .net, I can't remember, or maybe it's .com even. And there's a whole page called Locate a Clinic. I think probably now there's upwards of 300 clinics in the US, most of which got their start from joining the Community Acupuncture Network. The second half of what we do is practitioner education. So there are copious forums on there, from everything, how to run the front desk, how to do your paperwork, really how to do this kind of distal style of acupuncture. So it's a great resource for practitioners. And the whole idea was, well, we want this to grow. We want this to be big. We want the information to be as free as possible. Basically, the fees to join help the nonprofits keep running and the website up. So that's a great resource, and I would say at least 300. Mostly the coast, you know, the coast filled in a lot faster than, say, I'm from Indiana. I don't think there's probably 6 acupuncturists in Indiana, let alone a community acupuncturist. There's a few, you know, scattered throughout the Midwest, some in the South. But usually in a big metro area, say like Detroit has 3, you know, Florida has several, California of course has a bunch. So it's a pretty large movement.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.